Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking Wonder Woman once again. This time just looking at some of your thoughts on Wonder Woman, which I didn't cover in some other videos before. So we have here MD Hack. He said, I love it, 10 out of 10. Let's see who else we got here. True Ninja Tactics. He talked about the emotional depth. He said he saw the film for the second time. And he said when Wonder Woman steps onto the front line, he almost cried, and he laughs. It was a powerful scene. Great film. The DCEU is here to stay. So those are the two extra comments. You guys can continue to leave comments, and I will cover them. This video is about why the DCEU was never in trouble based off of critical reception. Transformers. Transformers franchise has been around for a very long time. And I'm showing you all of the Transformer movies and their critical reception here. The first Transformers back in 2007 had a 57% Rotten Tomatoes score by the critics. That is, 57% of them actually liked this movie. And guess what? Guess what happened with that movie? It was still a blockbuster success. Then we had Transformers: The Revenge of the Fallen in 2009. Then we had Transformers: Dark of the Moon, Transformers: Age of Extinction, and all of them had Rotten Tomato scores with the critics. In fact, they got less and less and less. Right? I just want to say this, though. I used to like Transformers. Now, I'm not really interested in the Transformers franchise because I guess it's not geared for me. But I would say that when I was a kid, I used to really like to see the advertisements with the Transformers transforming, and I also liked the animated Transformers film, which we'll get to. I never saw it until much later on, and boy, it was a hell of a film. Love the story. Mostly I knew Transformers generally fought in space, right? But what was cool about them was how they could assimilate into the world that we live in and not be recognized. And I thought that was the beautiful thing about Transformers. Apparently Michael Bay didn't get the memo on that, and that's okay. That's just my impression of Transformers, just like my impression of Knight Rider, just like my impression of $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman and The Incredible Hulk. I have certain views of it from certain movies I saw. When I see a modern film on Knight Rider, I don't feel like it. I don't feel Knight Rider vibe. You know what I'm saying? And I guess the vibe goes for whatever era you're in. Bionic $6 Million Man for a certain era. You know, when he moved in slow motion. By the way, Zack Snyder's not the only guy to do slow-mo. Of course, they used to do it back in the day. If you ever saw Bionic Woman or $6 Million Man, you know, you actually believed that they were running really fast, but yet they were moving in slow-mo because they were moving so fast. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those funny things. Anyway, that's besides the point. The thing is, the thing that really got me with Transformers when I was a kid, even when I was watching the cartoons, and then when I saw the big old animated splash, which was like a big thing back then because CGI wasn't like what it is today. I always remember the theme of Transformers, which is what always got me. And Transformers was, the theme was, I'm going to actually sing it. I can't sing very well, but I'm going to sing it. Transformers, more than meets the eye. I love that. I love it. And I like the little, you know, vocalizer and everything. It was so sick back then, you know. They never ever had that though. They never had that theme. And it's all good. Because guess what? It wasn't, Transformers is not made for me. Not for me. Okay? I loved how they took the time and transformed as Transformers. That they would kind of hide away amongst men. Men didn't know that they existed there. You know, that was cool. Hey, Michael Bay did something different and it works every time. It's a formula that works every time. And it's critic proof. You know why? Let me show you box office, ladies and gentlemen. That's what counts for a universe surviving or dying, a franchise living or dying. Guess what? While the critics were trying to castigate this movie, the first Transformers movie, hold up a second. Yeah, here it is. These are worldwide box office grosses, which is what really counts, right? First Transformers movie, okay? First Transformers movie, $709 million, almost $710 million. Second Transformer movie, more money, $836 million. Critics could do whatever they wanted to. Michael Bay's Transformers was making money. Third Transformers movie, Dark of the Moon, $1.1 billion. And the fourth Transformers movie, $1.1 billion. And this Transformers movie is still going to pull in money after the end of the day. Even though, to me, they all are the same. And I'm not really appealed to Transformers because, for me, I'll explain. As an action movie, I just can't see what the Transformers are doing. People talk about fight scenes and stuff, and I'm like, what? I don't see that. I just see a host of cogs and wheels. I just couldn't, for the first time, I couldn't really follow it. A lot of explosion cogs and wheels, but really, and their transformation was too fast for me. I wanted it to be in increments, kind of like, so I could actually see them transform. The cool thing about Transformers was they're transforming, not their lives and that they were characters and robots. No, it was their transformation. That's what's cool about Transformers. That they can hide around man and transform. So that was my thing. That was my bias. Nonetheless, it's what the story tells you and what kind of story it is. So what is a Transformers film? Well, you can know what kind of film it is by the genre it is in. Okay? So you look at the very first Transformers movie, for instance. Okay? It's going to have here genre. And it's going to give the rating as well. And if you look at it, it's an action-adventure film and a science fiction and fantasy. Science fiction because they try to explain it. Fantasy because it ain't real. Action and adventure. That's what it is. It ain't a great storytelling, Academy Award winning story. You're not going to watch Transformers for that. You're going for the kick-ass action, right? You know it's a science fiction. They're going to try and explain some stuff. And they don't have to explain it really well. And it's a fantasy film. Michael Bay understood this. We all know the crux of Transformers is the cool transformation. Optimus Prime is the coolest Transformer out there. Everybody loves him. You got the Decepticons. You got the Autobots. That's what Transformers is. If you're going in there expecting a Shakespearean something or a great story, that ain't ever going to happen with Transformers. And everybody knows that. Michael Bay knows that. So at the end of the day, Transformers had an intriguing story still. But when you go to see Transformers, I'm not hype on Transformers because that's not my thing. I like to think a little bit when I'm watching a movie. But nonetheless, Transformers is that. So when the critics started castigating these films, let me show you what the critics said. While believable characters are hard to come by in Transformers, the effects are staggering and the action is exhilarating. Okay? So that's what it was for. The film was for action and adventure. Okay? So it was really strange when the critics gave the second Transformer movie, which is Revenge of the Fallen, they gave it look what they say. Actually, they have the synopsis right there. Let me pull it up. And this was with Mel, whatever her name is, right? Megan Fox, right? Shia LaBeouf was back in it. Megan Fox was in there. Okay, fine. Revenge of the Fallen is a noisy, underplotted, overlong special effects extravaganza that lacks a human touch. But damn it, it's an action flick. What do you expect? By now, you might be bored of it, but not the people going to see it. So again, they castigate this movie, but it is what it said it was. Its genre says it. It's an action adventure, science fiction, fantasy flick. You might have outgrown it, but not the little 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 11, 12, 13-year-olds. They ain't outgrown that. And if they got to go see the movie, everybody got to go see the movie. So they going to make money off of this film any day, anytime. Because for them, they can't get enough of it. Dark of the Moon. Guess what? Its special effects and 3D shots are undeniably impressive. But they aren't enough to fill up its loud, bloated running time or mask its thin, indifferent script. Damn it, man. When has an action flick ever had to have all of that? They're doing as if this should be an Academy Award-winning film. I mean, come on, critics. I know you guys are tired of these kinds of movies. But guess what? Kids are not. And you'll always have kids in the world. So once it is, shut up, sit down, let them enjoy themselves. So Transformers Age of Extinction. More money. More money. With the fourth installment in Michael Bay's blockbuster Transformers franchise, nothing is in disguise. That's true. More than meets the eye ain't nothing like that no more. Fans of loud, effects-driven action will find satisfaction, and all others need not apply. Alright? They were tired. I can tell the critics are tired. Same old, same old. Same formula, same thing. Little extra stuff on the side, but mostly it's the same thing. Get it. But guess what? It works. Why? Because you always have kids. And once there are kids there, they're going to be attracted to Transformers. They're going to love Optimus Prime. They're going to play with the toys. You know Transformers is going to make money. And that's just what happened. Alright, so Transformers the last night. What do you think is going to happen? Same old, same old. Now you and me, we aren't going to be interested in it. But there's some diehard Transformers fans who've been following the story. I haven't. And they are going to go watch it. And guess what? This franchise is in good hands. And guess what? This franchise doesn't need saving. Got it? Because at the end of the day, ain't no way Universal pulling the plug on this if they are making money and baking money. Making and baking, baby. So you know what's up. By the way, Michael Bay is a pretty good action director. That's what he does. I think he did The Rock with Nicolas Cage and so on. That's what Michael Bay do. Let's talk about another film, Twilight. This is another series, right? The Twilight films. So in 2008, we had Twilight here. And you can see it's ranked 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. They don't tell you what the film is about. But let's go watch and see what this series of films is about. What kind of genre it is. Because it depends on the genre, right? It's a horror, mystery and suspense, science fiction and fantasy, and a romance. Okay? You know what that means? It's not an action flick. But what do these stupid critics say? What do these stupid critics say? Let's hear what they say. Having lost much of its bite transitioning to the big screen, Twilight will please its devoted fans, but do little for the uninitiated. Okay, fair enough. But it also says this. My hope is that the sequels are actually attempts at movies. The world doesn't need any more toothless cinema. A deeply sincere, outright goofy vampire romance for the hot, not to trot, abstinence set. Okay? I think this film is definitely a victim of its own expectations. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Now, this film, by the way, was directed by two women. It was by Catherine Hardwicke and Melissa Rosenberg. Okay? And just so that you guys know a little bit more about Twilight, because I think it's worth your while to know, it wasn't about violence in this flick. Everybody thinks vampire, that means it's sucking and blood and violence, and that was not what it was. It was a drama more. But I want to show you something else. So, it started off with a budget of $37 million. Raked in $393 million. Very profitable story. And the rest of the Twilight Saga, which none of them ever got fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Every one of them was rotten. Every single one of these films grossed in huge amounts of money. Okay? The second film, I think, was New Moon, and that grossed in $709 million. Then the Eclipse, Twilight Saga Eclipse, close to $700 million. And then Breaking Dawn 1 and 2, over $700 million. $800 million. Okay? So, again, it was critic proof. But the most important part of this is, just because it's called a vampire film, just because the book has some vampire action in it, doesn't necessarily mean that this film is what these people expected it to be. Alright? And that's the thing with these critics. They don't get it. Alright? I got one more. We got the series The Fast and the Furious franchise. And the first three Fast and the Furious films, which to me were the best Fast and the Furious films, the Fast and the Furious in 2001 with Vin Diesel, who was Dome. Basically Vin Diesel making this movie something worth the while to watch. They had it as rotten, 53%. The second one, which I also enjoyed because of Tyrese Gibson, who really made the film, that got 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the critics were out of touch with why these films are so cool. The third one, which was Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not understanding the culture that would go see these films. Cars, fast, drift driving. Like, people didn't get it, but that's what Fast and Furious was, what made it so cool. And then just the way how they articulated the driving and everything. Fast and the Furious in 2009, the fourth one, 28%, even less. Okay? I gotta admit, Fast and Furious 5, they started doing it fresh. This was when Gal came back and all of that. But the point is, they started to understand what the film was about. Now, let's get to it real quick. Sleek and shiny on the surface, The Fast and the Furious recalls those cheesy teenage exploitation flips of the 1950s. Alright, that was what they said. Now, what kind of movie was this? See, you always put things in context, right? So let's look at the first Fast and Furious and what kind of movie, because that sets the trend for what kind of movie it is, right? So the genre, it's action-adventure drama. It's an action-adventure flick. So you expect action, stunts. There's a little bit of drama in it because the story has a twist and turn when it comes to Paul Walker's character, who has to deal with Dom, who is Vin Diesel's character, right? And you wonder if Paul Walker is going to compromise himself or not. So it has drama in it. Sort of like that film with Top Gun with Tom Cruise. Well, actually, Top Gun was a little bit different because it was emotional. It was a drama, but he needed to be on the same playing field with the guy who he kind of opposed. Okay, it's a different kind of film, but still it was a drama film. And this is the same thing this kind of film does. There's stakes, there's stuff like that. So when they come back again, beautiful people, beautiful cars in a movie that won't tax the brain cells. What are you talking about? It don't break. But it's an action flick. All right, Too Fast, Too Furious is an action flick. It's got some drama in it, and that's what makes it cool, you know. And so there's an ongoing story, but you don't expect Fast and the Furious to be, again, a Shakespearean stuff where you think too much and all of that. No, it's an action movie. Like, they forgot what action movies are. You know, you watch a karate action flick, it's not for the drama in it. It's for the action, right? So they started to get it. So by Fast and Furious 6, they were like, with high-octane humor and terrific action scenes, Fast and Furious 6 builds up the winning blockbuster formula that made Fast Furious a critical and commercial success. Okay? At the end of the day, man, what do you expect from Fast and Furious? You expect Fast and Furious to give you action. And so the audience got it, but the critics never did. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, this is what their worldwide grosses were. Fast and Furious, 207 million. Okay? Then we had Fast and Furious 2, which increased 206 million. Then we had Tokyo Drift that dropped a bit, 158 million. And then the fourth one was Fast and Furious 4. And that was Fast and Furious, and that was 363 million. It was only going up from there on in. Fast and Furious 5, 606 million. Fast and Furious 6, 788 million. Fate of the Furious, $1 billion. And Furious 7 is right now also over $1 billion, right? Fate of the Furious, I think, is 8. All right? All of these franchises, the problem was the critics didn't get the movies. I bring back your attention to Roger Ebert. Okay? Roger Ebert, what he did was he would summarize the movie for you, and then he would tell you where certain points of the movie appealed to him or where it didn't appeal to him. And that's what you got to do as a critic. You got to see the value in these movies. That's what these guys don't understand. Right? You have to think like the audience. What is the audience going to like about this movie? Yes, I'm judging this for myself, and this might be my point of view, but will the audience understand and receive these things? And Roger Ebert, he would acknowledge that. He would say, even though he may give the movie 2.5 out of 4 or 3 out of 4, he would say the audience is going to like this kind of stuff. But I'm just saying where I think it could improve and where I think it has some flaws. That's what you as a critic supposed to do, man. Anyway, moving on to the DCEU. So the DCEU Extended Universe started off with Man of Steel. Epic movie. You know, I listen to some people say, oh, Man of Steel is not Superman. They get engrossed with Christopher Reeves. Now, let me just say, the first Superman movie, Christopher Reeves, 1978, Richard Donner film, let me just say this. It's charming. Ain't realistic at all, but it's charming. Alright? And Christopher Reeves, I can understand why people would like him. Alright? But I'm going to be absolutely honest with you guys. Whereas Patty Jenkins fall in love with Christopher Reeves, I understand why Superman 2 and then 3 and 4 never made profit like they should have. And they flopped. 3 and 4 flopped. You know why? Because Christopher Reeves is charming, yeah. But goddamn, how much of that you gonna keep to keep a movie going? So Brandon Routh, it failed with Brandon Routh when they tried the Christopher Reeve formula with Bryan Singer doing it, the directing. And then for the first time, I was never interested in Superman. You know, Patty Jenkins, she was blown away by Superman in 1978 because she was young, impressionable, whatever. I grew out of that Superman fast. I remember watching it, I think, twice, and I used to enjoy the magic of it. You know, how he filmed it. It was very magical, right? And at the time, the special effects was dope. The special effects was like advanced. I think they won an award, Academy Award for special effects, right? But goddamn, I got tired of Christopher Reeve rather quickly. Now, when Christopher Reeve, of course, he died because he got in an accident and stuff, and he was, you know, he really sort of embodied Superman to some degree, even though he was in some comedies and stuff. But even though Christopher Reeve died and all of that, I gotta say, I really didn't like that Superman so much. I didn't like that Superman. I didn't like that version of Superman. I thought it was lame. I thought it was weak. I thought the fight scenes in there, I thought he loved to smile too much. It's terrible to say, but that's how I just thought about it. Because to me, the Superman I always read in the comics, and if you go and read the Golden Age Superman was at a certain point, that's why Wonder Woman came on the scene, like I said in another video, because Superman was like a tyrant and Batman was like a killer vigilante. Okay, that's how the inception was. So Wonder Woman was there to kind of soothe the waters. And yeah, so in the end, what I'm saying to you guys is this, that the comic book Superman to me was just completely different to the Richard Donner Superman. Like the Richard Donner Superman was kind of too soft. Now I love that he had a heart, that he cared for people. I love that he tried to fight villains and so on, but I didn't feel him. So when Henry Cavill came on the scene, and Zack Snyder, who always seemed like a bubbly dude, he seemed like a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Gypsy-ish kind of guy, who he never finished his sentences. And I was looking at this dude like, this dude's gonna make Superman? Oh my God, this is gonna be worse than Bryan Singer's Superman. And I seen Henry Cavill, and he always looked like a pretty boy. He kind of looked like Henry kind of looked like Christopher Reeves, and he looked like Brian Roth. He got that double chin thing going on. So I was like, oh man, not another pretty boy Superman movie. I don't think I'm gonna watch this. And I managed to click on Superman having a discussion with Lois Lane. And Lois Lane's like, what does the S stand for? And he was like, it's not an S. On my planet, it means hope. And I was like, damn, really? And she was like, well, here, it's still an S. I was like, damn, I like this conversation. And Zach roped me in right there. He roped me in right there. And then the next time when I saw Superman punch Zod across the sky, I was like, damn it, this is Superman. Because I'd never seen, you see, you gotta understand, what I saw in the comics with Superman, and even in the animated series, Superman take charge, man. Superman was a dude that took charge. He would punch a guy, and he could punch a guy out of the sky. Villain, that is, super villain. He could punch a villain out of the sky. Superman would slam things into the ground. And immediately I was like, because Superman may be a Boy Scout. He may even be a nice guy. But one thing when Superman come at you, he come at you. And I didn't get that feeling with the Christopher Reeve Superman. He always felt weak. The Brandon Roth Superman, yes, he was saving people with a plane, he was using a lot of strength and stuff, but he still came across as weak. He didn't come across like authoritative figure like Superman is, who always looked big and strong. And for the first time, I saw it in Henry Cavill. I could see the soft side of Superman, but I could see the strong brute side of him. And when in the movie I saw Henry Cavill walk away after the guy threw the bear can at him and poured the bear on his head, and then the next minute I saw the truck that the guy was in just completely destroyed, I said, damn it, that's Superman. That was it. I was like, and I watched that movie, Man of Steel, I watched 6 times in the cinema. Couldn't get enough of Man of Steel. Because it informed us about where Superman came from. It informed us of how he grew up. We never heard the story of how he grew up. It informed us of the people who shaped his life and his philosophy of life. It informed us of how he found himself and how he found his place in the world. And then when finally it was time for him to show himself, he wasn't 100% ready for what was thrust upon him, but he went anyway, and he did the best he could. And then Batman v Superman followed up on that. And I totally love the story of Superman that was given to us by Zack Snyder. One of the best stories ever. The best Superman stories ever. It's not done. Batman v Superman is just the second chapter in the 3-part saga. We will see Superman return in Justice League, but I just love what Zack Snyder did. And I can't tell you guys how much I really appreciate Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, which I saw in the cinema 10 times. I've never done that with no movie ever. Okay? But he got me so dialed in with Man of Steel that when Batman v Superman came and I saw the continuation of the Superman story, which was very heavy. It was a very heavy Superman story. Okay, I'm not going to lie to people, but I loved every minute of it. When everybody got shocked in the cinema when Batman was dreaming and he had this nightmare, I enjoyed it. I was like, damn, he put some horror elements in the movie. I'm like, damn, this is a comic book movie, but dang, this is so different to everything I've ever seen. It was like a dream come true. Batman v Superman. I left Batman v Superman 10 times. I left the cinema smiling. 10 times. And I have a personal copy of Batman v Superman. The ultimate cut, yes, it was the better cut and so on. But I don't regret seeing the theatrical cut in the trail in the cinemas. I'll never regret it. By the way, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, 27% on the Rotten Tomatoes. The critics again did not get the movie, and they can't tell you the story and how the story had shortcomings at certain points. So this is what they say. First of all, let's deal with Superman, right? So the one thing I have, my only fault with Zack Snyder is the category of movie he makes. Zack Snyder only makes dramas, man. And Zack, two things he did that hurt this movie. One was the advertising. They advertised this movie in such a way that you thought it was going to be an action flick. It was an action adventure. It was science fiction and fantasy, but he should have put drama. Right? For Man of Steel. He should have put drama. Because this was a dramatic film, and Zack Snyder basically does dramatic films. Right? And then, when we look at the other film, which is Batman v Superman, this was a thriller drama. Because it was about figuring out how Lex Luthor was manipulating people. And it was dramatic because it was a drama, right? So, again, he just had action, adventure, science fiction, and fantasy, and they sold it as this was there's going to be a big fight scene with Superman and Batman. There's going to be a showdown, and they're going to fight all the way through the movie, and that's not what the movie was about. So I think that's where the backlash from some people who were devout fans who were really looking forward to the movie came. But for the most part, this movie just got so much hate even before it came out, and then after it came out, there was so much hate for it. And Man of Steel, both Zack Snyder films. I don't know why, but that was just terrible, okay? Nonetheless, people loved it, as you can see there. They loved both films. And right now, Batman v Superman is selling more than Captain America Civil War. It's selling more than that. Man of Steel sold more than Captain America Civil War, Age of Ultron, almost most Marvel movies. It sold quite a lot. People really liked the film. Suicide Squad is on a rant. It's just on a rip right now. It's the highest selling movie right now for this year so far. In terms of comic book movies, it's the number one selling comic book movie. I think it's the number one selling movie, period, for the year on Blu-ray and DVD so far. So that's crazy. And now we have Wonder Woman, right? And that was fresh. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to show you is that the DCEU, well, let me just show box office numbers so you can see. So we're 4 films in on the DCEU, and you can see Man of Steel was 668 million. It went up to 745 million. It went up to 873 million with Batman v Superman. Down with 745 million. So the DCEU has not been doing bad, and it just like those other franchises, whether the critics like the movies or not, whether they get them or not, this stuff's just gonna keep on selling. Okay. Like some people said, and I agree, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad were not for little kids. Man of Steel, that little kids wouldn't. Little kids could follow the movie. I think so. Batman v Superman, little kids might watch the movie, but they'll cry because Superman dies and so on. But yeah, the movies are more for adult content. I think Batman v Superman, even Man of Steel is much more for adults. Even though little kids, not little kids, not like 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds and so on, they won't follow it. So I think Wonder Woman is a movie that actually little kids can actually enjoy and follow as well, right? So that's another big plus for Wonder Woman. But I just wanted to share this stuff with you guys so you can see that it's not just about, you know, saying that the DCEU or whatever needs saving. It doesn't need saving, okay? It's the first DCEU movie to get a positive critical rating by critics, but that doesn't really mean much in terms of box office. As you're going to see, probably Wonder Woman, Actually, Wonder Woman is going to have the lowest opening weekend of all of the DCEU movies. Maybe it might score a little higher than Batman, Man of Steel. We'll see. But it probably is going to have the lowest opening weekend of all of them, even though it's going to have the highest rating. And that means it's not so much about how the critics rate a film. It's good if they can rate a film very highly. That's nice. But that doesn't mean that that translates into box office dollars. And at the end of the day, the box office is what keeps universes alive, or they have to reshape and resculpt and reboot. All right? And that's just the case with Warner Brothers. So I wanted to share that with you guys once again, and do have a good one.